The stars gleamed like cold diamonds against the deep black of space. The research vessel Starweaver moved silently through the endless darkness, its sleek hull cutting through the void with a grace that belied its massive size. Inside the ship's main bridge, something extraordinary was happening. Captain Jae-hoon Park stood relaxed, one hand resting on the shoulder of a creature that would have made most beings run in terror. The animal looked like a nightmare brought to life. Its body was massive, covered in a thick coat of silver-gray fur that seemed to shimmer with an almost metallic quality. Razor-sharp claws extended and retracted from massive paws, each claw as long as a human finger. Its teeth, visible in a slight opening of its powerful jaw, were serrated and looked capable of cutting through solid metal. But instead of looking like a killer, the creature appeared calm. Its deep blue eyes, unusually intelligent for what most would consider a simple beast, were fixed on Captain Park with what could only be described as affection. Every few moments, it would nudge its head against the captain's hand, seeking a gentle pat. The alien observers watched in horror and disbelief. Wara, the lead cynobiologist from the Wenish Collective, couldn't believe her eyes. Her tentacles, normally still when she was processing information, were twisting and turning in confusion. The holographic displays around her showed multiple data streams, each one contradicting the scene before her. Impossible, she muttered in her native language, her translation device converting the words for the human crew. Completely impossible. The creature was a Shadowclaw, a predator from one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered by the Galactic Confederation. Planet XR-392 was classified as a Class 10 Deathworld, a planet so hostile that most species would die within minutes of exposure. Gravity 3 times the standard, atmosphere filled with toxic gases, temperature variations that could freeze or burn in seconds, and predators that made the planet's environment look friendly by comparison. The Shadowclaw was the apex predator of that world. Scientific reports describe them as killing machines. Entire herds of massive prey animals could be decimated by a single Shadowclaw. They were known for their intelligence, their ability to hunt in complex strategies, and their absolutely terrifying capacity for violence. And here one sat, like an overgrown puppy, next to a human captain. "Something wrong, Wara?" Captain Park asked, his voice calm and friendly. He scratched behind the creature's ears, and it made a sound that was halfway between a purr and a rumble, a sound that should have been terrifying, but now seemed almost comforting. The alien researcher struggled to form words. Her entire scientific understanding was being challenged in this single moment. Every database, every research paper, every piece of cynobiological knowledge suggested that this was impossible. The Shadowclaw shifted, and for a moment, Wara thought it was preparing to attack. But instead, it simply adjusted its position, making sure it didn't bump into any of the ship's equipment. It was considerate. Captain Park noticed Wara's shock. He smiled, a gesture that looked both friendly and slightly amused. "His name is Thunder," he said, patting the creature. "We've been partners for about 5 years now. Rescued him as a cub during our first exploration of XR-392. The communication officer of the Starweaver, a young human named Lisa Rodriguez, added, "Most of our exploration teams have companion creatures. They're not pets. They're partners." The alien crew exchanged glances. Partners, with creatures that were walking weapons of destruction. Thunder, the massive Shadowclaw, looked around the bridge. His movements were controlled, careful. He wasn't a wild animal. He was a thinking, feeling being who understood his environment and his role in it. This was humanity's first true introduction to the Galactic Confederation, and it was about to change everything they thought they knew about life, intelligence, and companionship. The presentation hall was massive. Smooth walls of silver and blue curved around a central stage, where Hyun-Woo Kim stood, calm and collected. Behind him, holographic images flickered to life, each picture more shocking than the last. The Galactic Confederation representatives leaned forward, Some had extra eyes that widened. Some had tentacles that trembled. All of them watched with complete attention. Hyun-woo clicked a small device, and the first image appeared. A human rode what looked like a nightmare creature across a landscape of jagged rocks and dark storms. The ground itself seemed to want to crush anything that moved. Gravity pulled down with such force that most species would be flattened instantly. Planet XR 569, Hyun-woo explained. Gravity is 3 times what most advanced civilizations consider normal. Temperature changes can kill in seconds. The atmosphere is toxic to 92% of known spacefaring species. The creature the human rode looked like a mix between a bear, a rhinoceros, and a living tank. Its skin was thick and armored. 6 powerful legs moved with surprising grace. Sharp spikes covered its back. Teeth the size of human arms were visible in its partially open mouth. The human sat on the creature as casually as someone might ride a horse. One hand held a light control strap. The other hand patted the creature's thick neck. They moved together, not as rider and beast, but as partners. Another image replaced the first. This one showed something even more impossible. A human scientist stood next to what appeared to be a living plant. But this was no ordinary plant. It pulsed with strange colors. Tendrils moved with clear intelligence. Spores drifted around it. Spores that scientific records showed could melt through solid metal in seconds. On planet TR-227, Hyun-woo continued, this is a Class 9 plant predator. It can generate toxic spores that destroy most living things within a 50-meter radius. Entire research teams would be wiped out just by being near it. The hologram showed the human scientist collecting samples. The plant creature seemed to bend slightly, almost helpfully. It was positioning itself to make the collection easier. Gasps echoed through the hall. The next image showed something even more unbelievable. 2 children, small human young, walked through a rocky landscape. Massive creatures moved around them. These creatures looked like walking mountains. Each was at least 10 times the size of the children. They could crush buildings with a single step. But instead of attacking, the massive creatures moved carefully. They seemed to be protecting the children. One of the walking mountain creatures bent down, almost like it was checking on the children's safety. Wara, the xenobiologist from earlier, couldn't control her reaction. Her tentacles shot out in shock. "This is not possible," she said loudly. Her translation device carried her words across the hall. Hyun-woo simply smiled. "Possible for humans," he responded. More images flashed. Humans communicating with creatures that should have been mindless killing machines. Humans working alongside predators that could destroy entire cities. Humans who seemed to understand something about life that no other species had ever discovered. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about training. It was something deeper, something the Galactic Confederation had never imagined. The final image showed something simple but powerful. A human hand touched the rough skin of a massive creature. The creature, which could have easily destroyed entire buildings, leaned into the touch like a child seeking comfort. Silence filled the hall. Hyun-woo's last words hung in the air. Humans don't see monsters. Humans see potential friends. Outside the hall, through the large windows, stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, as if waiting to see how this revelation would change everything. The interview room was small but comfortable. Soft light filled the space, making everything feel calm and safe. Yeon-jae Lee sat across from Captain Jae-hoon Park, her recording device ready. Thunder, the massive shadow claw, lay quietly in the corner, watching everything with intelligent blue eyes. Yeon-jae's hand shook slightly. She was nervous. This was not a normal interview. This was a conversation that could change everything scientists knew about life, communication, and relationships between different species. "Tell me about Thunder," she began, her voice careful and clear. Captain Park smiled. Thunder's ears perked up at the sound of his name. "We met during our first exploration of XR 392, he explained. "I found him as a cub. His entire pack had been killed by a massive environmental disaster. volcanic eruptions, toxic gas clouds. Most creatures would have died. Eunjai leaned forward. And you decided to save him. Not exactly, Park corrected. He decided we would save each other. The captain's story began to unfold. During the exploration, Park and his team were trapped in a deep canyon. Toxic gases were rising. Temperature was dropping fast. Their protective suits were failing. Death was coming quickly. That's when Thunder appeared. The young Shadowclaw, barely more than a baby, had been watching the humans. Most creatures would have seen them as easy prey, but Thunder did something different. He created a path through the toxic environment. He used his body to block dangerous wind currents. He showed the humans how to move safely. He didn't save us because we were his owners, Park explained. He saved us because we were his team, his family. Eunji's recording device captured every word, but it couldn't capture the feeling in the room. The connection between the human and the creature was something no technology could fully understand. Thunder shifted in the corner. He wasn't just listening. He was part of the conversation. Most species see predators as simple killing machines, Park continued. But every creature has intelligence. Every creature has feelings. Every creature wants to belong. The alien researchers watching through a hidden observation window couldn't believe what they were seeing. The massive Shadowclaw, a creature known for destroying entire herds, was now carefully moving around the room. He avoided bumping into equipment. He watched Park with what could only be described as love. Eunji asked another question. How do you communicate with creatures like Thunder? Park's answer was simple but powerful. We listen. We watch. We respect. He demonstrated by making the small hand signal. Thunder immediately understood. The massive creature walked to a specific spot in the room. Not because he was ordered, but because he understood the request and chose to help. Communication is not about giving commands, Park explained. It's about understanding. Every living thing has a story. Every living thing wants to be heard. The interview continued. More stories came out. Stories of humans who understood that intelligence comes in many forms. Stories of connections that broke all previous scientific understanding. Thunder walked over to Park. He nudged the captain's hand, not as a pet seeking attention, but as a partner checking in, making sure everything was okay. Eunji realized something important. This was not a story about humans controlling dangerous creatures. This was a story about friendship, about understanding, about seeing intelligence in places where others saw only danger. As the interview ended, Thunder lay down next to Park. Protective, calm, intelligent. The alien researchers had many more questions, but one thing was becoming clear. Humanity was about to change everything they knew about life in the universe. The research center looked like a giant glass bubble. Inside, lights changed colors slowly. Machines hummed with soft sounds. This was where the top alien scientists tried to understand something amazing about humans. Dr. Wara stood in the center of the main research room. Her tentacles moved in strange patterns, a sign she was thinking hard. Around her, holographic displays showed brain scans, energy patterns, and strange colorful lines that connected different types of information. Look, she said to her team. Her voice was excited, but also scared. This is not normal. The hologram showed a human brain, but this was different from any brain the aliens had ever seen. Waves of energy moved in patterns that didn't make sense. They looked like music, like a dance, like something alive and moving. Humans can read emotions, one of the research assistants said. But this is more than reading. This is understanding. The display showed different examples. A human looking at a creature from a toxic planet. Waves of color moved between the human's brain and the creature. It was like they were talking without words, like they were sharing feelings without making a sound. Another image appeared. This time, it showed a human child with a massive creature that could crush buildings. The child's brain showed soft, gentle waves. The creature's brain, which looked completely different, showed matching waves. They were communicating. Dr. Warrer remembered the interview with Captain Park. He had said something important. Every living thing wants to be heard, he had explained. Now the research was proving how true those words were. The scientists discovered something shocking. Humans had a special ability that no other known species had. They could sense tiny changes in body language, in breathing, in the smallest movements. They could understand feelings from creatures that looked totally different from them. Most species saw different-looking creatures as threats. Humans saw potential friends. A new hologram showed the brain of a shadow claw, the massive creature from the earlier presentations. When a human was near, its brain showed something impossible. Instead of showing threat signals, it showed calm. It showed trust. This is not training, Dr. Warrer said out loud. This is something else. The research went deeper. They found that humans had a special type of brainwave. This wave could move between different types of creatures. It was like a universal language of feelings. Most intelligent species communicated with words or electronic signals. Humans could communicate with feelings, with understanding, with something deeper than words. The research team brought in more examples. A human researcher working with a plant-based creature from a toxic planet. A human explorer walking with massive mountain-like beings. Each time, the brain scans showed the same thing: connection, understanding, friendship. One researcher made a joke. Humans don't see monsters, he said, repeating Captain Park's words. Humans see friends waiting to be discovered. Dr. Warrer's tentacles moved in a way that showed she was thinking deeply. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was a completely new way of looking at life in the universe. Humans were not just another species. They were something special, something that could change everything. Outside the research center, the stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, waiting to see what humans would do next. The universe was about to get much more interesting. The laboratory was unlike any other in the Galactic Confederation. Soft blue lights glowed. Strange machines hummed with quiet power. In the center of the room, something impossible was happening. Dr. Hyun-Ki Park adjusted his glasses. His hands moved carefully over a complex machine. Around him, alien scientists watched with total attention. This was not just another research project. This was a moment that could change everything. Quantum neural resonance, he explained, his voice calm and clear. Humans have a special connection that goes beyond normal communication. The machine showed waves of energy. These were not normal brain waves. These were something different, something that moved between living things like invisible music. Most species communicated with words or electronic signals. Humans could communicate with feelings, with understanding, with something deeper than simple language. The first test involved a creature from planet XR392. It looked like a mix between a tiger and a walking mountain. Most species would see it as a killer. Humans saw a potential friend. Dr. Park placed his hand near a special sensor. The machine showed something amazing. Waves of energy moved between the human and the creature. They were not just talking. They were sharing feelings, sharing thoughts. Look, he said to the alien researchers, it's not about control. It's about understanding. The creature could have killed 100 humans in seconds. Instead, it moved carefully. It watched Dr. Park with intelligent eyes. They were partners, not master and slave, not hunter and prey, but friends. Another test came, this time with a plant-based creature from a toxic planet. Most species would run away. Humans would try to understand. The machine showed waves of energy moving between the human researcher and the living plant. They were communicating, sharing information, sharing feelings. Humans see potential in everything, Dr. Park explained. Where others see a monster, humans see a friend waiting to be discovered. The alien researchers took notes. Their recording devices captured every moment. But no machine could fully capture the magic of what was happening. One researcher asked a question: how is this possible? Dr. Park smiled. "We listen," he said. "We watch. We respect." More tests followed. Each one showed the same thing. Humans had a special ability. They could connect with creatures that other species saw as simple killing machines. A massive creature that could crush buildings sat quietly next to a human child. Most species would see danger. Humans saw a protector, a friend. The quantum neural resonance machine showed waves of calm, waves of trust, waves of understanding. This was not just science. This was something more. Outside the laboratory, the stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, waiting to see what humans would do next. The Galactic Confederation was about to learn something important. Humans were not just another species. They were something special, something that could change everything. Dr. Park looked at the alien researchers. "Every living thing has a story," he said. "Every living thing wants to be heard." The machine continued to show waves of energy, invisible connections, feelings moving between different types of life, proving that communication was about more than words. The universe was about to get much more interesting. The Deathworld Rehabilitation Project looked like something from a dream. Massive domes covered an entire research station. Inside, creatures that would have destroyed entire cities now lived in peace. Captain Eun-Soo Kim walked between the different habitat zones. Her footsteps were careful. Her eyes watched everything. This was not just a research project. This was a chance to change how the universe understood life. In the first zone, a creature that looked like a walking mountain moved slowly. Its skin was thick and gray. Rocks seemed to grow from its body. Most species would see a monster. Humans saw a potential friend. A human researcher stood nearby. She was small compared to the massive creature, but she moved with confidence, with respect. "Hello, friend," she said softly. The massive creature turned. Its movements were slow and careful. It could have destroyed the entire research station in seconds. Instead, it looked at the researcher with something like curiosity. Another zone showed something even more impossible. A plant-based creature from a toxic planet moved its tendrils carefully. Most species would run away. Humans had found a way to communicate. The Galactic Confederation watched everything. Their best researchers took notes. Their recording devices captured every moment. Captain Kim explained the project to a group of alien scientists. "We don't control," she said. "We understand. We listen." The rehabilitation project had several main goals. Learn how different creatures communicate. Find ways to protect endangered species. Create peace between different types of life. Show that intelligence comes in many forms. In one special area, young humans worked with creatures that used to be considered monsters. A child played near a being that could crush buildings. But there was no fear, only friendship. The alien researchers could not believe what they were seeing. One zone showed a group of shadow claws, the dangerous predators from XR 392. They used to be known as killing machines. Now they lived in a carefully designed habitat. They worked together. They showed intelligence that no one had seen before. A human researcher named Park studied their behavior. He watched how they moved, how they communicated, how they worked as a team. "They're not just animals," he explained to the alien scientists. "They're a community. They have feelings. They have thoughts." The Deathworld Rehabilitation Project was changing everything scientists knew about life. Intelligence was not just about words. It was about understanding, about connection. In another zone, a creature that looked like a mix between a wolf and a living mountain played with human researchers. It could have killed them in seconds. Instead, it showed something like joy, like friendship. Captain Kim watched everything. Her eyes showed hope. This was more than a research project. This was a chance to change how the universe saw life. The alien scientists took more notes. Their recording devices captured every moment. But no machine could capture the magic of what was happening. Outside the research station, stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, waiting to see what humans would do next. "Every creature has a story," Captain Kim said to the alien researchers. "Every creature wants to be understood." The Deathworld Rehabilitation Project showed something important. Humans were not just another species. They were something special, something that could change everything. The universe was about to get much more interesting. The education center looked different from any school in the galaxy. Alien children from hundreds of different species sat together. Some had tentacles, some had multiple eyes, some looked like living clouds, but they all watched the same lesson with total attention. A human teacher named Minji Park stood at the front of the room. Behind her, holographic images showed creatures from the most dangerous planets in the universe. "Intelligence is not about looking the same," she explained. Her voice was calm and clear. "Intelligence is about understanding." The lesson was about communication, about seeing potential friends in places where other species saw only monsters. Young aliens leaned forward. They wanted to learn the human way of thinking, the way that could turn dangerous creatures into partners, the way that could find friendship in the most unexpected places. On the holographic display, a massive creature from a high-gravity planet moved carefully. It could have crushed entire buildings. Instead, it walked next to a human researcher like a friend. "Communication is not about giving orders," Minji continued. "It's about listening, about respecting." More images appeared. A human child playing with a creature that most species would run away from. A researcher working with a plant-based life form that could generate toxic spores. Each image showed the same thing: understanding instead of fear. The alien children took notes. Their recording devices captured every word. But no machine could capture the magic of what was happening. In another part of the education center, young aliens practiced human communication techniques. They learned to watch body language, to feel emotions, to understand that every living thing has a story. One alien student raised a hand. "How do humans see friends everywhere?" he asked. Minji smiled. "We look for potential," she said. "We see what something can be, not just what it looks like." The lesson continued. More stories came out. Stories of humans who had changed entire planets, who had found friends in the most dangerous places, who had shown that intelligence comes in many forms. Outside the education center, the galaxy seemed to watch. Something was changing. The way species understood life was changing. More alien schools started to use human teaching methods. More young aliens learned to see the world differently, to look for friends instead of enemies, to understand instead of fear. The Galactic Confederation watched everything. Their top researchers took notes. This was more than a cultural change. This was a revolution in how life was understood. Minji showed another example. A massive creature that looked like a walking mountain. Most species would see a monster. Humans saw a potential protector, a potential friend. "Every creature has feelings," she explained. "Every creature wants to belong." The alien children listened. Their eyes showed something new: hope, understanding, a new way of seeing the universe. In the back of the room, a small alien that looked like a living cloud moved closer. It wanted to learn more. It wanted to understand the human way of thinking. The holographic display showed more examples. Humans working with creatures from toxic planets. Humans finding friends in the most unexpected places. Humans showing that intelligence is about more than just looking the same. "We are all connected," Minji said. Her last words hung in the air. "We are all part of the same universe." Outside, stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, waiting to see what would happen next. The universe was about to get much more interesting. The conflict started quickly, unexpected, dangerous. The Zorn Empire attacked a small border colony. Their ships were massive. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. Most species would run. Most would fight with guns and bombs. But the human diplomatic team did something different. Captain Jae-hoon Park stood on the communication bridge. Thunder, his Shadow Claw companion, sat quietly beside him. Around them, Alien diplomats watched with total attention. The Zorn ships moved closer. They were ready to destroy everything. Weapons charge. Destruction was coming. But humans had a different plan. Open communication with the local fauna, Park said calmly to his team. The alien diplomats looked confused. Weapons were ready. Battle seemed certain. And here was a human captain talking about communicating with local creatures. On the planet below, massive creatures lived. Creatures that most species would see as simple monsters. Creatures that could crush buildings, destroy entire cities. The human communication team worked quickly. They sent special signals. Not words, not electronic messages, something deeper, something that connected with the planet's native life. Suddenly, something amazing happened. The massive creatures of the planet began to move, not as attackers, not as weapons, but as protectors. Huge beings that looked like walking mountains surrounded the Zorn ships. They could have crushed the ships in seconds, but they moved carefully, strategically. The Zorn Empire had never seen anything like this. Their weapons could destroy buildings, could kill thousands, but these creatures moved with intelligence, with purpose, with a kind of protection that the Zorn had never understood. Captain Park explained to the shocked alien diplomats. "We don't fight with weapons," he said. "We communicate. We find solutions." The massive creatures blocked the Zorn ships, not with violence, but with presence, with understanding, with a form of communication that went beyond simple fighting. The Zorn Empire had two choices. They could attack and be destroyed by the planet's native creatures, or they could talk. They chose to talk. Diplomatic discussions began, not with threats, not with weapons, but with understanding, with respect. The human diplomatic team showed something important. Conflict could be solved without destruction. Communication was a stronger weapon than any gun. Thunder, the Shadow Claw, watched everything. He was not just a pet. He was a partner, a protector. The alien diplomats took notes. Their recording devices captured every moment. But no machine could capture the magic of what was happening. Every conflict has two sides, Captain Park explained. Every problem has a solution. We just need to listen. The Zorn diplomats were shocked. They had come to destroy, to conquer. Instead, they were being asked to understand. The planet's native creatures continued to watch. Massive beings that could have destroyed everything. Instead, they protected. They communicated. This was not just a diplomatic solution. This was a new way of solving problems. Outside, stars continued to shine. They seemed to watch, waiting to see what would happen next. The Zorn Empire would never be the same. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had shown something important. Friendship could be found in the most unexpected places. Understanding could solve problems that weapons never could. The universe was about to get much more interesting. 5 years had passed since humans first met the Galactic Confederation. The universe looked different now. Everything had changed. Captain Jae-hoon Park stood on the observation deck of the main diplomatic station. Thunder, his Shadow Claw companion, sat beside him. They looked out at the stars together. Partners, friends. Around them, creatures from 100 different planets moved freely. Creatures that used to be called monsters now worked as partners, as friends, as members of a new, bigger community. "We didn't conquer other species," Park said softly. His words were for Thunder, but also for everyone listening. "We simply learned to listen." The diplomatic station was unlike any place in the galaxy. Massive creatures that could crush buildings worked next to small creatures that looked like living clouds. Plant-based life forms communicated with energy-based beings. Everything was different now. Young aliens from across the galaxy learned the human way of understanding. They studied how to communicate, how to see potential friends instead of enemies, how to listen. Dr. Wara, the alien researcher who first studied human communication, now led the most important research center in the galaxy. Her work showed that intelligence came in many forms, that every living thing had a story. In one special area of the station, young creatures from the most dangerous planets played together. A child from one species sat next to a creature that most would see as a monster. They were friends. They were partners. The Galactic Confederation had changed. No longer was it a group of species fighting for power. Now it was a community, a family. Humans had shown something important. Communication was about more than words. It was about understanding, about respect, about seeing the potential in everything. The rehabilitation projects had changed entire planets. Dangerous worlds now had new ecosystems. Creatures that used to fight now worked together. Everything was connected. Captain Park remembered the first days of contact. How aliens had looked at humans with fear. Now they looked with hope, with understanding. Thunder moved closer. The massive Shadowclaw was more than a companion. He was a partner, a friend. Diplomatic missions now included creatures from every type of planet. Massive beings, small beings, creatures that looked like living mountains, creatures that looked like energy clouds, all working together. The education centers across the galaxy taught a new way of thinking, a human way of thinking. Every creature has a story, the teachers would say. Every creature wants to be understood. Young aliens learn to communicate in new ways, to see beyond appearance, to find friends in the most unexpected places. The Zorn Empire, once ready to destroy everything, now worked as partners in the Galactic Confederation. They had learned a new way of solving problems, a way that didn't involve weapons, a way that involved understanding. Dr. Wara's research had shown something amazing. Humans had a special ability to communicate, to understand, to see potential where others saw only danger. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if they were watching, as if they knew something amazing was happening. "We are all connected," Captain Park said to Thunder. The words were simple, but they meant everything. The universe was different now. Creatures that used to be called monsters were now called friends. Planets that used to be too dangerous were now homes. Everything had changed, and it all started with humans learning to listen, to understand, to see the potential in everything. The universe was no longer a place of fear. The universe was now a place of friendship.